Today, we're diving into something pretty fascinating. What happens when an ancient healing tradition meets the rigors of a modern laboratory? For centuries, Ayurvedic medicine has used certain herbs to manage what it calls Madhumeh. So, what happens when you put those age-old practices under a scientific microscope? Well, let's find out.
First, we gotta set the stage. The world is facing what some have called a diabetic explosion. And this challenge, it's especially huge in India, which actually has the largest diabetic population on the planet. You know, with rapid urbanization and all the lifestyle changes that come with it, it's creating a massive public health issue.
And to put a number on it, research predicted that the number of diabetics in India could skyrocket to 57 million by 2025. I mean, that's just a staggering figure. It isn't just a statistic, right? It represents a huge challenge for millions of people in the entire healthcare system. The sheer scale of the problem is exactly why researchers are looking down every possible avenue for help.
And that leads us to this really interesting question. With this modern crisis getting bigger and bigger, could a key to managing it be found in practices that have been around for literally centuries? That's the very question that sparked the scientific investigation we're looking at today. So let's talk about that ancient practice, Ayurveda. In the Indian system of folk medicine, it's really common to use more than one plant in a combination to help with health problems. The thinking is that these composite extracts can work together to give better, more balanced results.
So in Ayurveda, diabetes is known as Madhumeh, and traditionally, it's seen as a condition that's linked to an imbalance of what's called kapha, that's one of the three core energies or doshas in the body, and also a weakened digestive fire or agni. So the whole goal of these traditional remedies is to bring that system back into balance.
And here are the stars of the show, the specific tools used in this study. It's a mix of 5 really well-known herbs in Ayurvedic practice: Tulsi, Amla, bitter gourd, Gurmar, and Jamun. Every single one of these has a long history of being used to help manage blood sugar and overall metabolic health. Now, this is where it gets really cool. It's all about synergy. Let's just take 2 of the key ingredients. You've got Karela, or bitter gourd. It's described as having a bitter taste and a cooling effect, which helps to clear excess stuff from your system. But then you have Jamun, which is described as sweet and astringent with a heating effect, which helps support the pancreas. It's this incredible balance of opposing qualities that's so central to the Ayurvedic way of thinking. So, how does this old wisdom translate into modern science? Well, let's take a look at Gurmar. The research paper points out that it has something in it called gymnemic acid. And get this, the molecular structure of this acid is a lot like glucose. This means it can basically plug up the sugar receptor spots on our taste buds and in our intestines. It's like putting the wrong key in a lock. It blocks the real key, the sugar, from getting in. This can help stop sugar cravings and, more importantly, prevent our bodies from absorbing as much sugar from our food.
Okay, so we've got this rich traditional knowledge on one hand, and some pretty convincing scientific ideas on the other. But what happens when you put it all together and test it in a controlled clinical study? Well, that's exactly what these researchers set out to do. Let's check out how they designed the whole experiment.
The study was really methodical. First, they screened over 2,600 people to find 120 patients who had mild, uncomplicated type 2 diabetes. Then, they randomly split them into 2 groups of 60. The whole thing ran for 3 months, and they took blood tests every single month to track the results. And here is the really crucial part of the setup. The experimental group, the ones being tested, got the 5-herb composite mixed into a breakfast food. Now the control group, they got the exact same breakfast food, just without the herbal mix. This design is so important because it helps make sure that any changes they saw were actually because of the herbs and not something else. All right, so the 3 months are up, the experiment is done. What did the data actually show? This is where it gets really interesting. Okay, let's break down the numbers. For the group that got the herbal composite, we see some pretty clear changes. Their fasting blood sugar, or FBS, dropped from an average of 154 down to 139. Their bad cholesterol, the LDL-C, also fell quite a bit. And at the same time, their good cholesterol, HDL-C, actually went up. Now for comparison, look at the control group. Their numbers, they barely budged. Their fasting blood sugar even ticked up just a tiny bit. And if you're a visual person, this chart basically says it all. It focuses just on the fasting blood sugar. For the group that took the herbal mix, you can see it plain as day. The average drops from 154 milligrams per deciliter all the way down to 139 milligrams per deciliter over those 3 months. That's not just a random blip. It's a statistically significant reduction.
And hey, you don't have to just take my word for it. The researcher's own conclusion sums it up perfectly. They state that using the composite led to a reduction in fasting blood sugar, bad cholesterols, and insulin resistance, plus an increase in good cholesterol. That's a whole bunch of positive changes all at once.
So the study showed some really positive results. But what does all this mean when we take a step back and look at the bigger picture of health and medicine? All right, let's boil it all down to the key takeaways. First, the study showed this herbal mix has a real, measurable effect on lowering blood sugar and improving cholesterol. Second, it seemed to help reduce insulin resistance. But, and this is a really important point, it should be seen as a supportive therapy, not some kind of miracle cure. And finally, the researchers themselves are very clear. We definitely need more long-term studies to fully understand its potential.
And all of this leaves us with one final thought. This study is such a powerful example of modern science validating ancient wisdom. It really makes you wonder, as these two worlds keep coming together, what are the profound secrets from nature are just sitting there, waiting to be rediscovered and understood through a scientific lens?
Now, get all those powerful herbs in one daily ritual, Prana Diabetic Care Tea. Authentic Ayurvedic healing. Buy yours on Amazon today.